Speaking of best bets, speaking of playing it safe, how about Alabama over 10.5 wins? The over, you got to pay, it's minus 145. The under, plus 125. And I think Alabama, it's a lot like Georgia, what we talked about the other day with Georgia, right? With Georgia, the question is, where are there 2 losses on the schedule for this over to not hit? And I think it's the exact same thing with Alabama. Schedule's a little challenging, more challenging than it may have been in the years past. But where do you find the 2 losses on this schedule? And in the bigger picture, let's just think about Alabama for a second. So last year, Alabama, this time last year with Alabama, if I had done an SEC West preview on Alabama, here's what I would have said. They had just won the national championship. They lost 6 first-round picks to the NFL. Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith, I should say, Jalen Waddle, and a few other guys. 6 first-round picks. Okay, so think about that. They lost 6 first-round picks off of last year's team. They had a freshman quarterback last year in Bryce Young. Now, he turned out to be pretty good, surprise, surprise. They had obviously lost their offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian, and most of their offensive staff. They had a tough schedule. Whatever. The point I'm trying to make is all of that was working against them. Lost 6 first-round picks, freshman quarterback, lose the whole offensive staff. What ends up happening? They went 11-1 in the regular season last year. So if all of that happened last year and they went 11-1, what is the argument of them not matching, if not exceeding that, and going either 12-0 or 11-1 this year for the over of 10.5 to hit? The argument, there really isn't one. And on top of that, they're coming in a much better place this year than they were at this time last year. Now, I'm not saying that they're invincible, they can't lose. It ain't going to be easy, though. I mean, they returned the best player in college football in Bryce Young. I know there's a lot of buzz all of a sudden about C.J. Stroud. Is he the better long-term prospect? Is he this? Is he that? I'm not an NFL draft expert. What I can tell you is that Bryce Young threw for 4,800 yards, 47 touchdowns, 7 interceptions last year, okay? They obviously returned the best defensive player in college football in Will Anderson. Not sure if you heard, that guy's pretty good. 34.5 tackles for loss, 17.5 sacks, 102 tackles. I don't know if you guys caught the Alabama spring game. Nick Saban literally had to pull Will Anderson out of the Alabama spring game because he was messing everything up because he's too good. Now imagine that guy going against offensive lines that aren't Alabama's, that don't have 5 stars everywhere. Imagine him going up against Vanderbilt's offensive line or whoever they're going to play over the course of the season. It ain't going to be pretty. No spoilers, but Will Anderson's actually my favorite to win the Heisman. So you have Bryce Young leading the offense. You have Will Anderson leading the defense. Here's the crazy part, though. Nick Saban has figured out this portal game, right? There are certain coaches that are hesitant to jump in, most notably Dabo Swinney. Nick Saban sits around and says, wait a second now. I can come out of the season, and instead of relying on a guy that's never played meaningful college football or a true freshman coming in the freshman class, I can just go out and pick and choose the players that I want out of the transfer portal? Oh, boy. And Nick Saban has done that to a T over the last couple years. This offseason, he plugged every hole he had and I think upgraded some units that he didn't even need to upgrade. At running back, they got talent. Obviously, they lose Brian Robinson off last year's team. But they went out and they decided, you know what, we want to upgrade at the running back position. They went and got Jahmyr Gibbs, 5 yards per carry, 13 yards per catch out of the backfield at Georgia Tech last year. That was at Georgia Tech with not very good quarterback play, not very good line play, not very many deep threats in the wide receiver position. If he can average 13 yards per catch, 5 yards per carry, imagine what he can do at Alabama. Oh, by the way, they go out and get Jermaine Burton, wide receiver from Georgia, out of the transfer portal. They go and get Tyler Harrell, 18 catches, an absurd 29 yards per catch at Louisville, one of the fastest players in college football. And then on defense, they go out and get Eli Ricks, who is being projected as maybe the first cornerback off the board. He played at LSU last 2 seasons. And so you talk about a team that was probably going to be preseason number 1 already. Went out and added 5 impact transfers, including a difference maker at running back, 2 difference makers at wide receiver, a difference-making corner, an offensive tackle, Tyler Steen. This team is scary. And so we can do this and that and the other thing. Their over-under is 10.5 DraftKings Sportsbook. I encourage you to check it out and make sure to go ahead and do what you do. I'm not telling you what to do and what not to do. But even if looking at the schedule, you say the schedule is pretty tough, find me the 2 losses. The schedule is difficult. I will give Alabama that. I will give people who are not confident in Alabama that. The schedule is pretty tough at Texas, at Ole Miss, at Arkansas, at LSU, at Tennessee. That is not easy. For mere mortals, I would be worried. Those are 5 teams that are probably going to start in the preseason top 25. Tennessee is obviously a sexy pick out of the East. Maybe not LSU. Maybe Tennessee is a sexy pick out of the East. Arkansas coming off a 9-win season. Ole Miss coming off a 10-win season. I'm going fast here. But Texas, obviously, with the hype with Quinn Ewers. LSU, all of those games are on the road. Obviously, Tennessee at home, or Texas A&M, at home, and Auburn at home. With that said, it's Nick Saban. I don't see the 2 losses. Forgive me. Give me the over of 10.5 with Alabama.